The way I found Bobby was Reverend Martha Creek said to me a couple of months ago, several months ago, Kathy, you need to connect with Reverend Bobby Kyser. He lives in Louisville. You need to connect with him. And I'm like, okay, Martha, thank you. And usually I take her recommend, but we were talking November, Thanksgiving, we were short-staffed, and at Christmas, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to get to him, right? She goes, did you ever connect with him yet? No, but I'm going to. And so it was just enough nudge that I texted him, and or emailed, whatever we did, and he got right back to me, and so we set up a Zoom call. Now, I thought it would be a 10-minute Zoom call. Well, almost 2 hours later, Michael's like, I come downstairs and he's like, who the heck have you been on the computer with? I'm like, my new best friend. His name is Bobby Kyser. And so he drove in last night and stayed with us, and I got to know him even better. And I really do mean we've manifested a brand new friendship. So literally. So I'm so looking forward to this. Welcome, Bobby.
Thank you. So yes, and thank you for the music. I have to tell you, my roots, I better grab my talk before I get going here. My roots are very Southern Baptist. You know, I'm a Kentucky boy, so I'm deep into all the, yes. And so that, stands out to me. So I appreciate that. Sometimes I listen to the Gaither radio channel, and I know some of my unity people say, my God, can you listen to that, right? Because, it's so literal and so traditional. And yet, I get a spirit from it when I hear it that it's not even about the words. It's about the feeling that I get. So thank you for starting this out with that. And thank you, Reverend Kathy, for having me at your house. I have to tell you, I'm just all googly today. I mean, I don't know that I've ever taken a shower in rainwater. I mean, how fabulous is that? I mean, I'm like, oh, wow. When they said, by the way, we use rainwater. And I'm like, okay, I don't think I've ever done that. Maybe I've got too much city in me, but I need some country because rainwater. So, and when I got out, it's different. Like, it's a softer thing. So I was like, okay, and they fed me last night. I mean, Sam, look, I've been spoiled. I told her this was a vacation, not a time to come talk. So I'm grateful for you all allowing me to be here. I'm so blessed that right now, I'm just getting to go out from church to church and speak, and what a blessing that is. And it's such a tough time right now. Everything is in such an odd state. So for you to be here truly is a blessing. It really is. I'd like to start with a little story about a lady, and this was an accident a couple weeks ago. I was on Facebook, and someone posted this, and I just fell in love with this story. So I'm going to try to remember some of it, but I'm going to read some of it too, because I don't want to mess it up, because it's such a cute story about Mrs. Jones. And Mrs. Jones is this beautiful, well-versed 83-year-old woman. She gets up every morning at 8 a.m. and she does her hair and her makeup, and she's just really this fabulous expression of an individual at 83 years old. But she's got to move into a room in a retirement home. Her husband has passed. She's on a walker, so she felt it would be best to be in a home. So after many hours of patiently waiting in the foyer to finally come into her room, she smiled sweetly when she found out her little room was ready, right? And so as she moved towards the elevator, she was given a description of the small room, including the curtains hanging and so on and so forth. And the attendant explained kind of what was going to happen. And she said, I love it. The attendant said, you love it? You haven't even seen it. How can you love it? She said, oh, that doesn't matter. Happiness is not something you decide over time. Whether or not I like my room doesn't depend on how the furniture is arranged. It depends on how I arrange my mind. You see, I've decided already that I like it. It's a decision I make every morning when I wake up. I have the choice. I can spend the day in bed deciding how many of my parts do not work properly, or I can get up out of bed and bless the parts that do. Every day, she says, is a gift. And as long as my eyes are open, I will focus on the new day and the happy memories I've stored just in time in my life. Happiness, she said, is like a bank account. You withdraw from it what you deposit. So my advice would be to deposit a lot of happiness into your memory account. So I have a couple questions for you this morning. How are you arranging your mind in the morning? What kind of memories are you depositing in your memory account? This morning I want to talk to you about how to bring out your best. I want to talk to you about what it feels like to thrive in life rather than survive in life. Right now is one of those times in our history that is so crazy. It's full of madness. You see people around you sick. Things are going on around us that just seem so out of sync and out of divine order, and yet we know it is divine order. You know, humans have a history of fear. If you go back thousands of years and think about these little guys running from the animals, these little cavemen, right? I mean, they literally lived their lives in fear. That's all they knew. So we are genetically imprinted for thousands of years from this fear. And it's our job, right, to be able to work through that fear and bring out the positive. See, that's what we have to do. That is our job. When these challenges come up, we can learn to bring out our best and thrive, not just survive in this. I found in my studies, in my research, because I was having some challenges personally as I was going through the beginning of this year, at the end of last year. I had a really good year last year of thriving through a lot of turmoil, a lot of challenges. But I needed something, and I wanted to share that as a message going out forward. And so I'm actually going to be doing a workshop, which I'll talk more about later. And it's called Move from Surviving, to Thriving, the Positive Psychology Workbook for Challenging Times. And it's done by a gentleman by the name of Bruce W. Smith. You can put that up there if you like on the screen. That way they'll, there you go. Perfect. Thank you. And Bruce W. Smith is an amazing guy. So this guy is a professor. He's a doctorate, of course, but he's also a professor at New Mexico University. And he and his students at the beginning of 21, they were all feeling lethargic. They were feeling no energy. They were feeling drained by what was going on in the world around them. And they said, we have the tools that it takes to be able to create a workshop, a something for people to go through to help them thrive and bring out their best during all of this madness. So they got together, and the students in them, and really started focusing on what is it we can do to really thrive. This guy is, I do believe he's got to have unity in him or some kind of new thought, because as we were going through some of the things, he talks about mindfulness, resilience, wisdom, creativity, which are very similar to some of our 12 powers of understanding, wisdom, imagination, willpower, right? All of these things. So as I'm reading through this workbook, I'm realizing that I'm being spoken to, and that this is something bigger than me. It needs to be shared. And what is it that we can do to be able to thrive in our own life? And so I'm going to share a little bit with you about the book, or about the workbook, show you the the units. But then what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a couple nuggets from it that I think are amazing. And hopefully when I get to the end, I'll share with you about the workshop and you'll join me starting on February 3rd. But if not, at least today you're going to leave with what I felt like was some really great stuff from this. So if you'll go to the next slide, there's basically 4 parts to this. And the first one is the basic training for your life. And it's kind of like basic training you would have in the military, right? It's just giving you the foundation. And that's where he talks about all of these words that are similar or the same as our 12 powers. And that's where we start really getting what I call the tools. Now, I'm going to tell you a secret. You already have the tools, folks. She's taught you the tools. You've taught yourself tools. That's what unity is. We're nothing but a big set. It's a big toolbox ready for you to open up anytime you need, and you grab out a tool. When something breaks, you clamp it, wrench it, whatever you got to do, right, so that you can move forward in your life. So he starts out with giving us some of these tools so that we can get grounded and be prepared for the journey. Then he goes into bringing out your best. Now, bringing out your best is identifying the strengths that we have, right, and really focusing in on those, not the things that don't serve us. You know, we want to focus on what is it we are good at. What is it that makes us feel amazing, that elevates us up? Then we go into bringing out the best around you. Now, this is a really great part. I love this part because what has happened at this point, you've learned to use the tools to thrive. Now you get to help other people. You see, that's the value. Help them learn to thrive because you have the tools and you can stand in your truth. And then the 4th part is creating the best possible future. Now, this is where you've taken all your tools, you've put them together, and you create a plan. See, at this point, long term, because what will happen is, if you're not careful, if you don't use the tool over time, it'll start wearing out and things fall down, and then we forget. And we don't want to forget, because I promise you, if there's one thing that's always going to happen in your life, it's what? Challenges, problems, it's always going to be there. So you can never have enough of these tools or have your tools be as great as possible to support you in any of this. So there's a few nuggets from this that I really, really fell in love with. And so I'm going to tell you, as one of my drag queen friends would say, get out your big boots. We're about to go deep. Because I promise you these words are deep. But they're really not that deep. But I want to share them with you because they're all really and truly, if you look at the depth of them and the truth of them, they're all based on unity principle. They're all based on unity principle. I mean, if you get to the depth of any positive psychology, and that's what the workbook is all about, positive psychology, right? Overcoming all those fears that we got when we were cavemen, you see. But that's what we want to focus on. And so I'm going to share 3 of these building blocks with you that I think you'll truly enjoy. And then when I get to the end, I'm going to give you a few tips. I love giving little tips to go out so that when you leave today, you can begin right now. You don't have to wait for the workbook. You can, or the workshop. You can start right now. So the first one is positive reappraisal. Now, I know that sounds like a big word. Again, we're getting into these psychology terms, but it's basically an ability for us to see things differently that maybe will be more beneficial and useful. And I'm going to give you an example of this. I'm very blessed to own some rental property, and when I moved away for 15 years to sow some oats, we'll call it, I had to move. I moved to Fort Lauderdale and played on the beach for a few years and created a wedding and event company, and it was all fabulous. And then I met a church called Unity, and then I got the call to ministry, and I moved to Unity Village, and bam, all this stuff happened, right? So when I got the call back home to Louisville, I had property there that I still had and owned, and but there were some things that I didn't like about it, right? And I'll tell you one of them. I didn't like to plunge poo, okay? I just did not like, that was not one of my things. I plunged poo I plunged it for years, okay? It's part of the things happen. Your toilet gets clogged. It just happens. Wish it didn't, but it does. And I said, I don't want to do that anymore. Not because I'm too good for it, because I did it for years, and it didn't make me feel good. When I got a call that that's what I need to do is unstop a toilet, it was not good. And guess what the good news is? There's somebody that loves to get paid to do that. Right? There's somebody that just is tickled to death when your toilet gets stopped up. There really is. So what did I do? I found somebody else to do that. And instead I learned, what is it that I really love about rental property? You know what I really love? When a couple calls me, and this is a true story, at 7:30 on Sunday morning and says, we have locked our key out of the house and it's cold. Yeah. You see, when that call comes in, Reverend Bobby's ready to help and serve, right? That's what I love to do, you see. So I found what we have to do is positively reappraise things in our life that we love to do. What is it that resonates with us, right? That really makes it good. And that's going to lead me right into my next one, which is behavioral activation. Another big old word. But basically, it's nothing but following your bliss. It's about when you get in that flow, right? And the last year for me, I had so much going on. I'll share a little bit with you in a minute. It was a crazy world for me when I came back home. But I was able to, over the last year, follow my bliss. Why? I spent 5 years at Unity Village. Trust me, I had so many tools, it took a truck to bring them all in. I mean, I come in, I was packing, okay? Really, I was. And so I was able to go through all that and see, what is it that resonates with me? What feels good? What do I love? I thought I was going to be a real estate agent when I came back. As a matter of fact, while I was at Unity Village and I knew I was getting ready to move back, I was selling my house out there, they would not let us do real estate exams in Kentucky. They shut it all down because of COVID. But Cincinnati was brave. They were letting it happen. So I drove all the way from Unity Village, 8 hours to, or I think it was actually 9 hours, to take my real estate test here. And I took my test, and so got moved back home. And I thought, I'm going to be the best real estate agent in Kentucky. I'm going to go out and sell billions of dollars worth of houses. I went out and bought me a Cadillac. I was ready, right? Everything I went to do with real estate, it just wasn't right. Was not feeling great to me. I could feel something was not in sync with my truth of where I was heading. My rental property, on the other hand, felt good. Things were happening in there. Things were starting to move along. So as the year went on, I could feel myself, I sold the Cadillac, bought a truck. Right? That's what you got to do, right? It's like, okay, I'm ready. I'm going to go to work. And then my life started shifting, and I could feel a different energy. I could feel around me my desire to serve from that perspective. Behavioral activation. Being in the flow. And then the third word I'm going to share with you is called exposure therapy. Exposure therapy is one of those things that it just sucks to do it. I'm not going to lie to you. It's not a good therapy. But it's probably the most powerful therapy that there is, okay? It's when you've got a fear. Something has happened to you. Something has caused you to create a fear. And you start, hopefully slowly, start putting yourself in that fear. Right? It's when something happens and then you kind of expose yourself to it till eventually you start getting used to it. I play the piano and the organ and sing just a little bit. And I was doing a wedding for a couple. I used to love doing weddings. That was one of my favorite things. It still is, but now I do the service, not play. And so I was playing the organ, and it was hot in the church. And I'm playing the wedding march. They're about halfway down the aisle, and all of a sudden, all the music falls down into the thing and goes, I was like, oh, I pull it back up. I pull it back up. And I'm like, by then the whole church is like giving me this look. And I'm like, oh my God, you just destroyed this wedding. I mean, here they are halfway down the aisle. We pulled it together. We got through it, right? But I can tell you the next time that I went to play, that fear of that happening again had overwhelmed my body and my mind and told me, and I just went straight into nervous again. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to be able to do this wedding. I did get through it, but I will tell you that it was crazy. So I had to start re-exposing myself. And it was just simply starting to play for my friends at home because I was having this feeling. And in the world we're in right now, so many things can take that fear and just well up in us. And right now with all that's going on, it can even be worse. I mean, we're fearing being around people. We're fearing so many things, right? So put on a mask. We start exposing ourselves, right? We have to get it. And I think we're going to have to go through a lot of this when all this finally gets to its final stages. We're going to have to re-expose ourselves to this. By the way, those people ended up getting an annulment 2 weeks later. So I do not think it was the fan. I do not think it was the fan. I think divine order pushed that thing down and said, this ain't supposed to happen. They really did. I'm telling you, that's a true story. So, personally, last year for me, I got back from Unity Village in October of not this past year, but the year before. So I've been back about a year and 4 months. And I walked into the worst situation I could have ever imagined in my life. My mom had become really overwhelmed with a lot of outside influences. One of my family members had became a drug addict, committed elder abuse on my parents. It goes on and on. I came back to mental illness, depression, drug addiction, alcoholism. And there's only 4 people in my family, okay? So there was a lot of items going on, okay? My family likes for me to share this just simply for the fact is where they have grown to now, right? How they've come. Now my nephew is completely clean and doing amazing. He's been almost 9 months. His life has shifted. He's got a job, his own apartment. My mom is in a new home, and she's thriving. And it's just such a different world than what I came home to. And it was hard, guys, for me. I tell you, standing in all that, trust me, it would have been so easy to not bring out my best or be in a survival mode. It was tough. I mean, I wanted to go back to my old days before I had the truckload of tools and just start slapping people and be mad. What have you done to yourself? Who are you? But I had tools. You see, I had Unity tools, just the same tools that each one of you have. I have the same tools. And so I had to go to work. I thought my ministry was going to be at church or come in and speak, but it took a year and 4 months before I could get back out because my true ministry became my family. Have you ever felt that before? You had to be there for them and everything else didn't matter. So I thought to myself, how did I get through this? And I'm still excited. I'm still excited about my life and their lives and those around me. How is that? And it was those tools. It was those tools from Unity. Now I'm going to share, as we go away, and I'll finish this, I want to share I call it's the 5 daily habits, but I call it one of the greatest happiness people in the world. His name is Sean Acor, and he's just this incredible speaker, and he wrote a book called The Happiness Advantage, okay? So I like leaving you with some tips, because you can't leave here and not go out and make some difference in the world, right? Because you've got what to do it with? The tools. You've got the tools. You've been taught that by those around you. It's here. You got them, okay? Better than most people around you. I don't like to elevate us above other people. We're not, well, we might be a little better. We've been open to the toolbox, you see. Once you've got the toolbox open, you can't go back. Oh, you fall down the steps, but you can't go back. Sean Acor, The Happiness Advantage. So if you will, put up these little tips that I want you to take with you. All right. And these are easy. Some of them are unity. Some of them are just daily stuff, right? This is not hard. Number one, express gratitude. If you don't do anything but do what Miss Jones did, wake up every morning and bless those bones that work, not the ones that don't. Don't focus on it. Yes, it hurts, but focus on what's there. I promise you, it's going to be easier than focusing on what does not work. Express gratitude for yourself and those around you. Speak highly of others. When I come back, the topic is going to be the Word. Now, a lot of people think the Word is, right, the book, the Word, because that's what we call the Bible, the Word. And it is, but it's more about the Word, the words we use. How when we open our mouth, either trash can fall out or we can have powerful, amazing, affirmative support, right, for other people. So we're going to talk about that. But speak highly of others. That's an easy one to do, but it's hard as heck. You know what I'm saying? It's really hard. It's just so easy to not speak positive all the time with other people. Surround yourself with inspiration. That's why you're here today. So you're already doing one of them. You got tools. You got the tools already. You don't. It's there for you. Surround yourself with inspiration. Eat well. This is something I love to do. Eat well. Thank you, Kathy, for feeding me. She kept feeding me and feeding me more food. I'm like, okay, I'm happy. I got the happy. And that doesn't mean just eat all the time. That means eat well. Nourish your body. This is your temple, right? We have to support it and nourish it. And finally, this was really hard. Be honest. I got a story I got to share real quick. It's a quick one. You know Miss Martha Creek? She's going to kill me for doing this. But she was telling me a story about how she was in a church. It wasn't this one, by the way. I made sure I caught that. But she said she made a new rule. I'm going to be honest starting at the first of the year. That's my New Year's, what do you call it? Resolution. Thank you. So I'm going to be honest. And so what happens the first service she goes to is the lady comes up. She goes, oh, Martha, I missed you so much. You missed me too, right? She said, I said, oh, Lord, here we go. What am I going to do? She said, I didn't miss that woman at all. What am I going to do? She said, you know I love you, right? Yeah, see? She didn't lie. She didn't lie. She didn't have to. See, that's using our words to express, to be honest. Because we don't have to be mean to be honest. But I'm telling you, if you'll just take one or two of them. You don't take them all. You got tools already. Just add. This is just adding to your toolbox, your unity toolbox of things to go out and do. Folks, if there's ever a time in the world, ever, I promise you in your life, and some of you have been through a lot of things, but in my life at least, right now is the time for us to use what we have, what we have learned, what we can share with the world. You are the light of the world. This church is the light of this community. And you have a responsibility, because you know better, to go out, to share your love, to share your light, to share your truth, so that you can help bring out the best in those around you. Thank you all so much for allowing me to be a part of this sermon today in this ministry.